afternoon, everyone, and welcome to McLaughlin College Lunchtime Talks. And we always start our lunchtime talks with the land acknowledgement. And I've been taught to bring a piece of the land with you when you do the land acknowledgement. We recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Tookarondo has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. Before I briefly introduce our guest speaker today, I'd like to remind everyone that we have a very big week this week in terms of annual events and activities, and it starts tomorrow with our United Nations International Day of Education. We have a distinguished panel of speakers from the Faculty of Education, and that'll take place here, of course, from 12 noon to 2 p.m. And in the evening, from 6 to 9 p.m., we have our annual first-year student dinner. And our special guest speaker is going to be the Mayor of the City of Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie. She's going to give a hopefully wonderful, inspirational address to the first-year students, because as we all know, first year tends to be one of the most challenging transition years for our first-year students as they make their way from high school to university studies, or from community college to university studies, or from the labor market or labor force coming back to do higher education. So please join us for that. And then on Saturday, on January 25th, is our annual Robbie Barnes Night and Poetry Contest. Now that is one of the, without a doubt, one of the best annual events that we have here at McLaughlin College. And one of the best things about it is that you get to dress in your tartan attire. And if you do, you'll get a free shot of scotch. So that starts at 7 p.m. Again, it's going to be held here. Please join us for that event. You'll have a wonderful time. We have the piping in of the haggis. We have the famous address to the haggis, and you'll have the full Scottish meal as well. I'm really pleased to welcome Shoshana Elharar, who is a PhD candidate here at York University. She's also completed her MA in Humanities here at York University, and she has a graduate diploma in Jewish Studies. And she's going to tell us about Tel Aviv, beyond borders, between borders, and something that I've just first started to hear about, the Bauhaus in Tel Aviv-Jaffa. So please join me in welcoming Shoshana.
And thank you, Master, for allowing me to be a part of the festivities, and especially this one. I'm quite excited about playing in the presence of this lady, because up until I've had a spiritual awakening from God Himself, as He spoke to my heart, I used to be anti-Semitic, but I am not no more. I've long since repented. And now it's such a pleasure to play for people, especially when they are of different races and different ethnicities, such as I used to discriminate, but now I madly love them. So thank you for allowing me to have it. that privilege.
Thank you for your words and thank you for the music. It's really wonderful introduction to my. But please, could you please all come over so we'll be more intimate conversation? Would you please? And you come here. It's okay. You are taking a picture.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay. Could you please? Yes. Thank you. So we'll all be like one family. It will be easier for us. Okay, I know Bauhaus is an architectural style. That's the most important thing about Bauhaus. I know there are many Bauhaus buildings over the world. I know there are in South America, in India, and in many places. The style is the same all over. But I'm talking only about the Bauhaus in Tel Aviv, and you will see why. And I will start from the end. I will read, and later, of course, I will answer questions. I will be glad to answer questions. And is there somebody who never heard the word Tel Aviv here? Okay, Tel Aviv is a city located in Israel. Israel is in the Middle East, for those who didn't know. I will start from the end, which means UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, declared Tel Aviv, the city of Tel Aviv, as the World Cultural Heritage Site in the year of 2003. The World Heritage Committee decision number inscribed the White City. They call it the White City. This place which most of the Bauhaus buildings are concentrated are called the White City. So they inscribed the White City of Tel Aviv, the modern movement, Israel, as the World Cultural Heritage Site for being an outstanding example of new town planning and architecture. I chose to bring only two of the decision criteria, one of which will be the White City of Tel Aviv, that's what they wrote, is a synthesis of outstanding significance of the various trends of the modern movement of architecture and town planning in the early 20th century. Such influences were adapted to the cultural and climate conditions of the place, as well as being integrated with local traditions, which is more to say about Jaffa, local traditions. You know, the Tel Aviv and Jaffa were united to one city in the year 1950. Jaffa is a very old city. Tel Aviv is very new. It was established 1909. The other criteria was adapted to the requirement of a particular cultural and geographic context. UNESCO mapped the exact borders of the White City. I will not mention the streets, it will not mean anything to you. They called and referred to it as the White City. In addition, they instructed some conservation recommendations to guarantee efficiency and effectiveness for preserving the place. The award was announced and was granted during an impressive ceremony. A delegate of UNESCO arrived to Tel Aviv to celebrate the event. They brought a prestigious plaque. The plaque was planted in the ground of Rothschild Boulevard, one of the main boulevards in Tel Aviv. It was a day of festivity for Tel Aviv and Tel Avivians and the leaders and the city. And I just will show you a little bit the city. I hope I will. So this is Tel Aviv. It's a global city. If you know the difference between just a city and a global one. Like global, for example, which are and other cities which are global is New York, London, Tokyo. Sorry? I don't agree yet. And you know what? I had a big dispute with another professor about Toronto. I was in a city conference here with people from Toronto City, and I asked them the question. They said, not yet. But it is, I can feel it is in its way to be global. So we will not enter to the global, what is global.
So what's the definition of global city?
Oh, this is a big difference, but it is another subject. But we'll talk later. I will tell you one-to-one. So this is Tel Aviv. This is another way to show Tel Aviv. There is a beautiful seashore all the length of Tel Aviv. This is Jaffa. You can see the difference. Very old. And this is Jaffa. When you see in the horizon, you see Tel Aviv. It's a beautiful picture to take them both, just to have impression how they are so different. This is a plan, just a map of streets and so on. So this is the plaque. The UNESCO, and here it's written in Hebrew, the White City, and again in English, the White City of Tel Aviv, World Heritage Site 2003. And this was a leaf that fell from one of the trees maybe. And here, you see it was planted on the ground, so they are walking on it. The people in the boulevard, they are walking on the plaque. So UNESCO declared some other important world sites, just to give an impression how important is a world. For example, what are the other places? Giza, the pyramids in Egypt. Grand Canyon National Park in USA. Great Wall in China. Taj Mahal in India. Palace of Versailles in France. The Pantheon in Rome. Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland, Petra in Jordan, and some more. It's a very nice company to be in. So before I talk about the Bauhaus in Tel Aviv, which presents one of the largest Bauhaus collection of architectures in the world, in this city alone there are about 4,000 Bauhaus buildings. I bring some information about, so before I talk about Tel Aviv, I'll talk about the Bauhaus in general. Just to give you some impression, if you go in Germany or in South America or in India, you have to take a bus from one Bauhaus building driving to the next Bauhaus. In Tel Aviv, you go in few streets, each building, one next to each other, is a Bauhaus one. It means if you want to see Bauhaus, that's the place. 4,000, and it's a small city compared to big city. It's only 350,000 people. It's smaller than one of the big quarters in Toronto. Like Vaughan is bigger, Thornhill is bigger. You know, so Tel Aviv is a very small one, and it has 4,000 Bauhaus buildings. So what is a Bauhaus school? The Bauhaus was a name of a unique school of design. It's actually a name of a school, which was active only for 14 years at Weimar, Germany. Between 1919 to 1933, which means that 2019, last year, there was a big celebration of 100 years to the Bauhaus. It happened that I was in Tel Aviv during the big ceremonies and celebration for the 100. It was really something. The school was one of the greatest institutions of design of the 20th century, different of any other school, technical other school. It was a place to learn visual sciences, claiming to build a future for the future. The school introduced a revolutionary concept with the main goal to create a new rebellion society. They meant through architecture to change the society, with a clear intention to change the environment. These, they claimed, would come as a path to change the world, equipped with a dream about a better world. It was kind of a utopian aspiration. Changing conditions of human life would alter the nature of man for a better being. The school taught town planners, architects, designers, preaching that when they carry out their important job to design cities, buildings, or goods, they carry out a great social responsibility, no less than the task about life and its surrounding. They thought it can be done aesthetically and through modern techniques and new kind of materials. The aim was to reach a modern creation for a modern world. The school was dealing with all perspective of life in an aesthetic level. They taught, invented, and implemented innovation, new constructive thought, visual language, and design within the art content. It was an avant-garde, new way of thought, clear, plain, simple lines, full of light, colorful, and geometric structures, teaching a practice through rational principles, demanding efficiency, high quality, maximum functionalism, simplicity, elegancy, and no decoration. The Bauhaus philosophy of the school strived toward moderate, self-controlled, abstract, strict, clean, and modest aesthetics, characteristics by each asymmetry, using geometric lines, rich and diverse. Their demand were to create, through principles of origins, way of thinking, rational performances, and high standard in order to reach a kind of perfectionism. Yet, it aimed towards practical advantages when using modern method and new tangible stuff. In 3 words, they preached for bright, bold, and simple. They used new man-made materials such as glass, concrete, and steels via modern methods and techniques, holding the philosophy of using machines to the benefit of man. The goal was to change conditions of life, as we said, opposite to what it was before. They challenged tradition and ignored all previous long-established solutions. Ludwig Mies, I did not add the other names, his last name. He lived between 1886 to 1969, was one of the most important architects of the modern logic constructions and creative movement. He was a leading German architect, one of the main designers of his time, teaching at the Bauhaus school, coming to influence the constructions of the modern city. Huge towers of glass and steels, take for example Chicago. His idiom, fame, 2 sentences were, and they influenced the school philosophy and much beyond, were God is in the details and less is more, which symbolizes a powerful symbol of radicalism. The school flourished during the turbulent, chaos, catastrophic times until it was closed by the Nazis. It was closed because teachers and students wanted to do things differently, too different. Others argue that the teachers and students' behavior were too wild and too communist, opposing the general atmosphere of Germany of the time. After the school was shut down, the teachers and the pupils left and were spread all over. And of course, they spread the Bauhaus all over. By the way, There is a dispute if it was really closed because they were anti-Nazis or not, but there is a picture of Hitler sitting, I didn't bring it, sitting on a Bauhaus chair. So it's not sure why they were closed, but there were many, many reasons. They were too wild for the strict atmosphere of the time. So Bauhaus concept moves to Palestine. In those days, it was Palestine. Some of the teachers and students fled to Palestine. They arrived at Jaffa, as everyone else in those days, because that was the only gate. There were no planes, no big ships, and no fast trains, so everybody came through the port of Jaffa. They introduced the Bauhaus construction philosophy and influenced the architecture of Tel Aviv and some in Jaffa. One important clarification. The name of the Bauhaus architecture is actually the international style. It means in Bauhaus school, when they taught architecture, they taught international style. But no one uses it. The kind of architecture carries simply the name of the Bauhaus. While many would know that the Bauhaus is what the Bauhaus is, not many would know that the international style, and very few would know that in effect one is the name of a school and one is the name of school construction style. In any case, the city of Tel Aviv has one of the largest number of buildings constructed according to the international style, or simply the Bauhaus style. The contemporary city, as a result, is praised with an exposition of the largest group of buildings constructed in the advanced philosophy of the Bauhaus school. It is also important to mention that the Bauhaus school taught and had a comprehensive philosophy of disciplines, not only constructions. Something I learned really very late, because I thought Bauhaus is building, but it's not. So the Bauhaus studies encompass all aspects of life, touching and relating to all human daily life, vision, field, and concern, such as paintings, ceramics, textiles, sculptures, furnitures, product design, graphics, architecture, film and photography, without lithography, kitchen design, metalware, pottery, theater, and costume design. I don't know if I brought the picture of the theater. In any case, a year ago, when they celebrated the 100 years of the Bauhaus in Tel Aviv, and I didn't know, but I was there, so they brought a full Bauhaus theater from Germany by German students who may be studying the Bauhaus in Germany. They spoke only German, and each one that wanted, that volunteered, and I volunteered, they put on me a disguise of the Bauhaus, and they took pictures. It was really a very nice experience. It means that they wanted to change everything, even the theater. So now I'm reaching the Bauhaus in Tel Aviv, and I will just show some Bauhaus building. You see, clean lines, straight, no decorations. In Israel it's hot, so they adapted the balconies, open balconies. See again, clean, white. Maybe that's why it derives the white city. White or light colors. All these pictures I took in Tel Aviv, of course. This is Dizengoff. It's one of the main square. So in this paper, I will relate only to the Bauhaus architecture style. I don't talk about other things, not theater, not kitchen stuff or something, to which the city of Tel Aviv is one of the main faithful, constant testimony. So Bauhaus in Tel Aviv. Why Tel Aviv? Why suddenly Tel Aviv was chosen to have so many Bauhaus buildings? How come Tel Aviv got a major leading Bauhaus constructions more than any other cities in the world? After all, when the Bauhaus school was closed, its students and teachers were spread all over, not concentrated only in Tel Aviv. Furthermore, in the 30th and 40th of last century, there were many other cities in the world, much bigger and more important than Tel Aviv, places where the Bauhaus school could reach and achieve much greater impact and publicity. And the city of Tel Aviv was much smaller than today. And today it is a small city. So let us go back to the philosophy introduced by the Bauhaus school. They did not start a new school just to teach architecture or design, as many other schools in Europe. They were breaking ground to inaugurate a revolutionary, brand new concept of architecture and design. Their intentions went further with the main goal to create a new, revolutionary, and a better society. Their reasoning stated that their objective was to change the environment as a course route for the main goal to change the world. They had a dream about a better world, a utopian aspiration. In short, they meant to change physical conditions of human life so it would alter a nature of a better human being. The school was locked up while Bauhaus teachers and students still held in their vision a great dream, which they could not fulfill yet, a dream which they did not have enough time to accomplish. Assuming they looked all around to reveal a fertile soil. I don't know if you say it in English. In Hebrew you say fertile soil, where you can. Okay, a fertile soil where they would be able to implement and carry out their progressive and new innovative ideas. So where in the world they could find a better match than Tel Aviv? And now I will explain why. The virgin soil was Tel Aviv. It was a very young city, craving for modernity and advanced ideas. Remember, it was established 1909. It was looking for featuring new method, advanced and original concept and principles. Some of these novel concepts they had found in the paradigm philosophy of the garden city. Everywhere you will read that Tel Aviv was established as a garden city. Now, what is a garden city? It took me a long time to find out, because I thought a garden city is a garden. Many flowers, like everybody else would say that. So here, what is the philosophy of the garden city? This model offered, the model of the garden city, a method of engineering and comfort with the purpose of living in healthy homes and healthier surroundings. This pattern had to be directed by the community itself to embody practical purposes with the main intention to uplift the society, a place which ought to form a utopian society, exactly like the Bauhaus, a microcosmos to a very high end, nothing less than that of building a new civilization. These are the principles of the garden city. An excellent opportunity to construct a novel fabric of civilization to signify a fundamental social transformation along with the renaissance of its architecture. And now a quote, out of which would spring a new hope. This is a quote of a book about the garden city. Out of which would spring a new hope, a new life, and a new civilization. Through my my research, I have found that much resemblance constitutes both the philosophy of the Garden City and the one initiated through the Bauhaus school, even though almost full generation was separated. The Garden City, starting to talk about it, was the end of the 18th century, and the Bauhaus started, as I said, 1919, the beginning of the 20th century. The expert architects from the Bauhaus school and the leaders of Tel Aviv both preached for innovative ideas about the establishment of an improved society, a utopian community, introducing something fresh, new, and completely not known yet, with no limitation to wild ideas, thoughts, and their adequate implementation. Tel Aviv was a small city with no urban planning yet, started from zero, carrying no loaded, disturbing history. It was not burdened with any past, nothing old to destroy in order to introduce new. On the contrary, it was in a state of need of full booming construction, a prosperity mode, open and welcoming any new advanced town planning, novel housing construction, and fresh architectural ideas. As such, both groups constitute a perfect combination to work with each other during perfect time and place, and a desire to put into implementation their mutual dream town, a vision of a utopian society. Even though no one of both groups were religious, they were all secular, the atmosphere was as if they were standing in times of redemption, holding a great mission. The new settlers of Tel Aviv came to build their homeland, a hope to build their new nation, starting with a fresh first Hebrew city. The expelled school Bauhaus architecture arrived at the right place, at the right time, waiting to implement their fantasy dream town. Simple, clean, and anti-bourgeois. So, the Tel Aviv Bauhaus, which I showed you a few pictures already. Yeah. Many ideas. Of course, I didn't take 4,000 pictures, but I took few of them from few places in Tel Aviv. The outcome effect of the above mutual performance became the trademark of Tel Aviv. The Bauhaus architects well planned and built Tel Aviv as an abstract cubism in general. They constructed houses according to their paradigm. Free-standing structures, buildings separated from each other, each in the middle of a courtyard, detached from neighboring ones, away from from other buildings, built in recessions set back from the street, at least 4 meters from the road. The cubic houses had clean, straight lines and flat roofs, each surrounded with green space and gardens toward the street. The cubic houses were built with long thermometer or cylinders. I have few pictures that will show. In cylinders, it means that you always walk in stairs with windows outside, light coming from the outside towards the whole building. To allow full exposure of daylight and air. They were and are still separated by functions, terraces, windows, staircases, and balconies towards the street. The construction of separated and independent buildings of each other added windows on the sides of the rooms, which were able to shed light during the day. As such, light could come in, reach from all sides of the building, because this region is very hot, and they needed light and they needed air. So the light and the air went into the building, in between the buildings. The exterior walls were painted white or light color, some of the houses standing on pillars, some with rounded corner curves, away and devoid from non-functional decorations. All in control, simple and easy to run. Something like that. and all the others. I have more later. Most of the Bauhaus buildings were constructed in Tel Aviv-Jaffa between the years of 1931 to 1937. But some of them were built later until the 1950s. Unfortunately, many of those original Bauhaus buildings were destroyed during years in times where old was considered ugly and nostalgic was somehow primitive. Later, the city understood the great value asset of what was built and left along its first established roads. The city did not allow any destruction of Bauhaus buildings anymore, wrecked as there were. Those buildings which luckily escaped destruction were preserved and fully renovated, representing a living monument to the school architecture fundamental teachings. The old magnificent buildings were and are still totally renovated according to their original architecture and planning. The old ones stand at the facade towards the street, and now I will show it, and the towers are built behind. The constructions of the towers financed the renovation of the old precious pieces of history. So, this is the original house, and by giving permission, license to build this huge tower, they financed the renovation of this house, and I remember how it was really wrecked and just to be destroyed. And it is beautiful now. It's a main street, that's why you don't see it so well, but I have some more. Here, it's another angle of the same building here. So they have two towers built and financing the, here. It's another beautiful old house with a tower behind that financed the full renovation of the old house according to the original construction. Here. This is a beautiful, beautiful old house with the huge, huge tower. Of course, most of these towers are banks. Let's see if I have, yes, still. Look at this beautiful small house, another one, another one, another one. And so many towers were licensed to be built just to really to reconstruct as it was originally the whole area of few old buildings. Let's see if I have more. And of course the old buildings are becoming coffee shops and boutiques and more. Okay. So Jaffa also adapted. For sure you know Jaffa. Jaffa was united with Tel Aviv the year of 1950 to one city. Very old city. No one disputed it is at least 3,500 years. But many, and I prove it according to some archaeological excavation which are done in Jaffa, that it is even more than 7,000 years. Very old city. And it was united with the very new one, with Tel Aviv to be one city. So Jaffa was also adapted the Bauhaus in few places. The result was an integration of the specific form of international style into an existing old urban fabric, because Jaffa was built. A modern architecture style with a translation to the existing local shape and materials. This melange created a rich diversity of architectural variants. They are still presented in a few different places in Jaffa, and one of the very special one is the French ambassador house in Jaffa, which I showed you only from the outside. I should go there and take pictures from the inside. Other Arab modernism building were different. It was recognized by dense, compact, continuous constructions, as I showed you Jaffa at the beginning, to allow setting up of buildings at the side of each building was attached to the next building. A construction of continuous oval texture, one building attached to the other, preventing side facades. So, I'll talk about the story of the very special house built in Jaffa, the French ambassador house, and this significant a lot. That's why I'm bringing this story. It's the story of the French ambassador residence may serve as an example that incorporates the many layers of Jaffa's story. It provides evidence to support the following statements, which I will read now, which are essential to clarify the nature of Jaffa during the period discussed. Strong cooperation and trust between Arabs and Jews. Good friendship among Arab and Jews. It will provide a glance on Jaffa's richness and its residents. It guides to the origin of Arabs' wealth in Jaffa, the Jaffa orange, if you heard about it. It points to the openness and modern Arabs' views, the willing to try new ideas. It proves that Jaffa adopted a modern international style of architecture. So this luxurious house is a remnant of the friendship, cooperation, and collaboration between Arabs and Jews. It is one of the remaining witnesses to the wealth of Jaffa. This is the current French ambassador house in Israel. It is one of the most beautiful, impressive, and elegant buildings in the area. Anyone who goes to that area should go to visit this house. This fascinating dwelling, striking both in size and style, was built during the 30s of last century. It was planned and built by Yitzhak Rappaport, one of the leading Bauhaus architects of the period. Rappaport was lacking knowledge of the original architecture, tradition, and culture of the place. He was a Jew, a European Jew. He did not have the relevant local experience, nor the materials or construction method. He had no knowledge nor the experience of an art builder in reference to the local climate. Logically, local building techniques should have been a point of departure for such an operation. He faced a dilemma of how to integrate his imported European architecture, international style, to Jaffa's character. Finally, he initiated Western construction models, changing the organic rules that were developed and were in use traditionally in the local custom and Muslim law. The house of the contemporary French ambassador to Israel was originally built for his close friends, from the architect's close friends, one of the honored and richest residents in Jaffa, Ahmed Abdel El-Rahim. The house was built according to the new international architectural style, or the Bauhaus style, on the best spot of land in Jaffa, on the head of a slope, atop of a hill, facing the water of the Mediterranean Sea. It is a big, noticeable house, a villa, which was strictly planned down to every small item. It was designed into details from the size of the house, the entrance, the garden, and to the least piece of furniture to the perfect finish. Abdel Rahim was part of a notable El-Rahim family, and personally was one of the richest Arab Muslims in Jaffa. As such, he was also a leader of his community. He owned the biggest orange orchard, control the orange export, and much more. He asked his friend Rappaport to plan and erect a special house to realize his richness. Rappaport was a famous architect by then and already had built few other prominent buildings in Jaffa. Rappaport planned the outside of the huge building according to the Bauhaus principles: minimalist, cubic, asymmetrical, straight lines, simple plain white walls with no decorations. It was covered with a flat roof, and in the front of the huge terrace towards the sea, and a huge terrace toward the sea. I don't know if I have a picture with the terrace. This is the building. This is the entrance. It was surrounded with a big garden and was equipped with 3 parking spots. You know, in times there were no cars in the place. But the famous architect was much more restricted when planning the inside parts of the house. The inner constructions had to serve as a Muslim family, answering to Muslim traditions. The instructions were explicit: a separation between the hosting section and the private ones, and between the men's and the women section and the women and children. The villa had a special entrance and a detached serving wing. Let me see if I have another villa. No. In the year of 1948, there was a war between Jews and Arabs. After the war, the Arabs were defeated. Abdel Rahim flew to Beirut, like most of Jaffa's Arabs. Abdel Rahim left all his assets and belonging to the only one he could trust, his friend Rappaport, Yitzhak Rappaport. Luckily, Rappaport refused the Israeli request to confiscate the house. He presented legitimate documents of being the owner of the house. Later, Rappaport sold the house to the French government in 1949 and transferred the funds to Abdel Rahim when they met in a neutral place. Since the purchase of the house by the French government, it has served as the official residence of the French ambassador in Israel. The ambassador lives with his family in part of the house, while the other part serves like a museum for visitors to enjoy the beautiful building and its story. The French ambassador who have served their country in Israel did not change the building significantly, except some adaptation to modern needs, such as kitchen, air conditioning, electricity, and so on. This is a story of a wonderful friendship between 2 people, Abdel Rahim and Rappaport. Abdel Rahim, by choosing Rappaport services, he took a risk by breaking with tradition twice, with his cultural milieu, by erecting a modern structure within the Levant surrounding, and by using a Jewish architect in times of starting a tension between the 2 people. Yet, Rappaport discreetly knew to answer the challenge. He knew how to reach a compromise with traditional norms, customs, motifs, and regulations of Muslim law, religion, and cultural restrictions. Rappaport knew how to combine the tradition with modernism. It was a modern aesthetic, yet for a traditional use. This house is evidence of a construction's translation of the Oriental into the modern language. So basic Arab rules of urban constructions were in effect violated in Jaffa. Having a great influence being next to the city, which grew in rapid pace, the Bauhaus architecture introduced new knowledge and the use of new materials like cement and iron, which were not in local use before. The use of the new physical stuff disturbed the original Arab building language. The new contrasted the old, losing closeness with the traditional shape, as if distancing the indigenous from their very well-known word. As such, a major visual conflict of construction was manifested in Jaffa. Yet, the Arab builder had difficulties of his own, as he didn't have the knowledge nor the material to build multi-floor buildings. In any case, the Arab urban modernization was different from the Jewish urban one, even though they emerged at the same period as a result of the same modern movement. And I finished my talking, just more pictures of Bauhaus buildings. Oh, this is the staircase. In each building there is a staircase with windows for air and light during the day. Terraces. That's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. If you have any question, I'll be glad to answer. Yes, yes.
Okay, one particular question I had. I learned about this Bauhaus structure when I was taking Arts and Ideas with Dr. Caitlin Fisher. And the way I understood it is that everyone at Bauhaus had to learn how to make their own furniture regardless of what discipline you were. It made no difference whether you were in music or painting or drama. It didn't make any difference. You made your own furniture and you did a lot of all these other things. And I suppose that this was done to get you more open-minded. Excuse me. Is that a fact? Is that what they actually did in those Bauhauses?
Yes, I showed a few pictures of Bauhaus houses, and each one of them is different than the other, even though strictly they had to be built plain, no decorations, and colored white. And so some of them have terraces, some of them don't have terraces, but in essential they are all built the same all over the world, as according to the Bauhaus principles. And you're right, the Bauhaus looked for avant-garde, to be ahead of everything in anything that you are doing, whether construction or kitchen stuff or bed stuff or anything that you are doing, thinking about, you have to be original and think how it can serve the principles of the school. Yes.
Architecturally, what is the future of Tel Aviv, an avant-garde city, with a architecture 4,000 buildings, you say, Bauhaus design and architecture? What is the future of a city with an avant-garde architecture which is passé?
You know, this is a very interesting, a very, very simple answer in one word: expensive. And I'll tell you why. Because these buildings, really, they take a lot of space. And the city is very small because it is surrounded with other cities. So it cannot go it cannot have more land, so it goes up. It goes up. So each of these old buildings has a tower behind of 30, 40. So the future of this city will be sky high. And some small, and now there's, because I live Tel Aviv every day, I see the news every day, and there is a big dispute about a garden that they want to demolish in order to build a tower. And that's a terrible thing for each global city, that they want to build only towers and towers and towers, no place to play, no gardens, and they invent all kinds of new method of having gardens on the penthouse, having gardens in the terraces, but no place on the ground for anything but buildings, but towers. But because it is so small, it is so expensive. all the statistics shows that it is one of the 10 most expensive cities in the world. More expensive than New York, more expensive than Chicago, more expensive than Los Angeles. Because so many people wants to buy a house, or there are no houses, by the way, no houses in Tel Aviv, there are only condos. So everybody wants a condo, but a condo may reach, this is the top, $100 million. Now, with all the the Jewish oligarch coming from Russia, each one of them wants something towards the sea. And most of Tel Aviv, it's a walking distance from the sea. It's a beautiful Riviera. I was in the French Riviera. Tel Aviv Riviera is no less beautiful than the French Riviera. So prices goes up and up and up. And that's why I'm discussing a lot the gentrification. Because suddenly all the poor people are not needed there. And all the rich people are coming in. Next to Tel Aviv, there is a beautiful neighborhood, a small city called Herzliya. It's the big villas where most of the ambassadors live, like the American ambassadors. And when they give an event for 1,000 people. So huge. All of the people in Herzliya are moving to Tel Aviv because in rush hours, it's 10 minutes by car. In rush hour, it's 2 hours to enter to Tel Aviv and to leave Tel Aviv. So everybody is selling, except the ambassadors. They're selling Herzliya, they move to Tel Aviv. So the prices are sky high and they continue to go up. The Minister of Finance had to resign because he could not control, he could not control the prices of the houses. It's a little bit like what's going on in Toronto. The prices all the time goes up from different reasons. Because in my background, I'm an economist, so the reasons are different. Why in Toronto it goes up, why in Tel Aviv it goes up, but it's the same phenomenon. Yes. Or question? Yes.
Sorry, quick question.
Yes.
When we're talking about the Bauhaus philosophy or the principles, like when we're talking about bringing new towers, like isn't that what the philosophy, the Bauhaus philosophy was? Using newer engineering techniques, better materials, accommodating as much people as you could, right? So wouldn't you know what I'm saying?
This is very true for Tel Aviv, not for Europe. I think it's not for Europe. This is very true for Tel Aviv because they came to Tel Aviv in time when suddenly they received so many newcomers and they needed some techniques to build quickly and simple one. It is really, to my opinion, I grew up in Tel Aviv. Within Bauhaus, I never thought it is beautiful. It was so simple, so straight lines and white, it is so boring. So, and many people who are in Tel Aviv would not tell you it's beautiful, this Bauhaus, but they needed to build quickly and cheapest way and to accommodate all those newcomers that came, masses of newcomers, of Jews, especially after the Holocaust, moving to Tel Aviv. So it's true what you said.
Yeah.
It's new techniques, quickly building, but it's function. That's what they wanted. A place, a roof to live in, not more than that.
But the new skyscraper, like let's say this over here is 5 stories. It would accommodate, let's say, 20 families. A skyscraper with 50 floors would accommodate 10 times as much, right? So
It's true, but in the 30s of last century, I think no tower in the world. Nobody built towers in those days.
right.
Yes. The Arabs could not build more than two stores. One, first floor and the second. That's it. Because the first floor had the second one. No more than that. The Jews, with this philosophy, they started with 3 and 4 floors.
Right.
But later, of course, with the iron and glass and so on, they started to go up with the towers, hoping that they will stand. Yes. Sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The Bauhaus style, to me, seems to be influenced by Art Deco. Am I right about
By
that?
whom?
Art Deco architecture.
Ah,
And I see a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright's sort of clean, functional, straight lines. So was he influenced by the Bauhaus?
I don't know. I don't know him, and I don't know. But I'm sure that that was the time that each new idea influenced the other. I'm sure there was an influence between the ideas, because people, like after the World War I, which was a disaster for everybody was looking for something new, something fresh, something different, and they needed it. So they went really out, as we say, out of the box to find those things. And I'm sure that all these philosophers or writers or avant-garde artists had some influence in this matter. Yes, did you want to ask
Yes, I
something?
did want to ask something, please,
Yes.
and thank you. I would like to know, what about someone like Andy Warhol? He was very influential in arts and everything like that, and especially with his famous ordeal with the soup cans and everything
Yes,
that he...
and with Marilyn Monroe. Telling you the truth, I know about Warhol the same as you know, not more than you know. And
Well,
through
you probably know
what I
more.
read.
Well, don't
But
be
he
so
lived-
so
he
certain.
lived much
You probably
later.
know more than I do.
He was a generation or a generation and a half after the Bauhaus, so I'm not sure he was. But you know, it's really a trend
What about
to be
these
more
cereal-
simple, to be more, and he was genius to do with this simple thing millions of dollars, just to take a picture and to put it in 100 times the same picture and to give each one another color. So.
And then again, too, during the war, you had serial artists, and you had abstract art, and you had Dadaist in Switzerland, like the Dadaist poetry would, have a
Yes.
circle of people, and everybody would throw a word into the center,
Yes.
and you'd try to make a poem out of what every individual was throwing
Yes.
into the collection as they went around the
But
circle.
it's again to the same question. You know, in times, people are influenced by what happened in the past. So you take what you learned already and you want to give it something ahead, something new. And that was really very new. And people liked it. He was lucky that people liked it. So, more questions? Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to.
Shoshana,
Oh,
I'd
wow,
like to
yeah, even
make a
nicer.
presentation on behalf of all of us here at McLaughlin College.
Thank you so much. You are
And the
really.
only way you can receive that is to make a presentation at our college. So I hope when you look at this, you remember us here and your presentation.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Professor Philip, for inviting us. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it also, and you learned something. I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.